What if memory were not a vessel of truth, but a mirror fractured by longing? What if what we call the past is not behind us, but beneath us, a trapdoor under the theater of now, ready to snap open when the mask slips? We speak of wounds as if they close, but some do not. Some smile back at us when we least expect. You have felt it, haven't you? That peculiar ache that lingers not because it hurts, but because it feels like home? Perhaps the real agony is not in the pain itself, but in our refusal to let it go, or worse, in the secret pleasure keeping it. There's a silent ritual we perform in the shadows of our minds. We return again and again to moments that have already devoured us, not to find closure, but to feed them. Like priests before a forgotten altar, we offer our present to ghosts who demand sacrifice without promise of salvation. And we call it healing. We call it growth. But what if it's neither? What if clinging to pain is not a flaw, but a strategy? One so deeply woven into our being that abandoning it would feel like erasing the only language we've ever spoken. Who are we without our tragedies? Who remains when the story of suffering is no longer told? You see, we are not haunted by the past. We haunt it. We keep it alive through the sacred repetition of thought, the slow caress of grief disguised as remembrance. Pain becomes performance. Memory becomes addiction. And what we fear most is not the return of the wound, but the silence that would follow if we finally let it heal. For in that silence, there is no identity, no narrative, no anchor, just a void, just the unbearable freedom of a self no longer chained. And yet, have you ever asked why certain memories arrive uninvited? Why some moments sharpen with time instead of fading? Perhaps it is not the past we revisit. Perhaps it is the past that reclaims us, uses our voice to whisper its name, hijacks our breath to remain alive. We are not walking away from what hurt us. We are dragging it behind us like a second shadow, one that only disappears when we stop looking into the light. And maybe, just maybe, we fear that letting go would mean losing something holy, something that once gave our suffering meaning. But what if there is no meaning? What if the past is just a beautiful lie we're too afraid to stop believing? If so, then why do we carry it like scripture? Why do we polish our wounds like relics? There is something sacred in this madness, and something mad in this sanctity. You are here now listening, because some part of you suspects that the weight you call memory is not a burden, but a cage built from illusions. And in the next breath, you might feel it, the crack in the wall, the tremor in the foundation. Don't look away. The question is not why we hold on to pain, but who we become when we no longer need to. We do not remember pain. We inhabit it, like an old cathedral consumed by ivy. We let sorrow grow into the architecture of who we are, until it becomes indistinguishable from our soul. And yet, when someone asks what binds us to what no longer is, we respond with hollow phrases. It shaped me. It made me stronger. It taught me something. Lies polished into mantras. We speak of survival as if it were victory, when in truth, it is often just a refusal to die completely. Somewhere between the wound and the silence that followed, we mistook endurance for healing. But pain that is not understood becomes ritual, and ritual, when repeated enough, becomes identity. That's a sickness we dare not name. Not that we were hurt, but that we have become the echo of that hurt. Faithfully, obsessively, almost religiously. You see, the past does not wait behind us like a loyal dog. It slithers ahead, cunning, planting its venom into the roots of tomorrow. We are not chained to what happened. We are lured, seduced by the known bitterness. There is a strange eroticism in returning to what once burned, like touching a scar to feel alive, like bleeding just enough to remember the shape of the knife. We dress it up in nostalgia, but memory has claws. And if you listen closely, you'll hear it scratching from inside, the voice that says, asterisk, You were more real when you were broken. Asterisk, because in the fracture, there was meaning. In the suffering, there was purpose. Now there is only the unbearable way to freedom. And freedom without a script is terror. Some part of us, the most secret part, believes we don't deserve to be whole. That joy without guilt is arrogance. That to abandon pain is to betray the version of ourselves that endured it. So we keep it, we cherish it, we let it rot gently inside. And we call this loyalty to the self. But ask yourself, who taught you that liberation must be earned through agony? Who taught you that redemption needs proof? There is something primitive within us, something ancient and trembling that longs to suffer visibly, so the world may witness our worth. And worse, so we may believe it. Because if no one sees the wound, was it real? If we move on too easily, does it mean we were never truly broken? We grip our past like a relic, not because it's sacred, but because without it, we don't know how to be seen. And still, there is a deeper cruelty, a shadow beneath the shadow. It is the moment we begin to suspect that we've built our entire identity on a story that no longer serves us, that we made altars out of pain, and we keep praying to gods that died long ago. What happens when you outgrow your own myth? When the sorrow that once defined you becomes a burden you can no longer carry, but you keep carrying it anyway, because without it, you are no one. That's the exile no one talks about, the loneliness of becoming free, the mourning that comes when you realize the past cannot love you back, that it only ever wanted your silence, your surrender, and perhaps you gave it more than it ever asked. So now here you are, listening, still holding it, still whispering the name of the wound as if it were a spell. And maybe, just maybe, part of you is tired, not of remembering, but of being the vessel through which memory survives. You think you want answers, but you don't. Not yet, because answers would mean change, and change would mean leaving behind the one thing you've always trusted, the ache. But let me ask you, when was the last time the pain told you something new? When was the last time it moved you forward instead of circling the same haunted corridor? Perhaps this is not about letting go. Perhaps it's about seeing, not with the eyes, but with the fracture, seeing the machinery, the trap, the script that repeats not because it's true, but because you haven't dared to rewrite it. What if the past was never yours to carry? What if it was just a whisper left behind by someone else's fear, echoing through your bones like a lullaby turned poison? And what if the real memory is not what happened, but what you believed about what happened? That you were not enough, that you were ruined, that you were alone. These are not facts. These are curses, and curses only survive if repeated. But tonight, in this breath, with these words, you have a choice to echo or to rupture, to be the repetition or the rebellion. The pain will not leave quietly. But perhaps, just perhaps, it is time to stop worshiping the ghost. Perhaps it is time to ask, not why the past won't let go, but why you still bow before it. And perhaps now, with the heart still beating inside this silence, you begin to sense it. It was never the past that bled. It was you who kept the wound open, fearing that if it healed, you'd lose the last thread tying you to something that once felt real. But nothing true vanishes when released. What shaped you no longer needs to confine you. The echo of pain only lingers because you still listen to the ears of guilt. And when guilt goes quiet, time shifts its shape. What once seemed like a scar becomes a threshold. What felt like a prison becomes a passage. Here, in this liminal space between what was and what insists on being, the truth doesn't scream. It waits. There's a strange stillness in this kind of clarity. Not a silence that empties, but one that reveals. And in that stillness, You might finally notice how tightly you've been holding a memory that long ago stopped holding you. Not out of love, not even out of grief, but out of habit. You've worn the past like a second skin, forgetting you were always allowed to shed it. You don't owe your former self a lifetime of loyalty to their suffering. You owe them the courage to evolve, to stop repeating their pain as if it were prophecy, to step beyond the loop and into the unknown, where you are no longer defined by what hurt you, but by what you dare become. And yet, the mind resists. It clings. It begs for meaning in the repetition. But maybe the most sacred meaning is this: not all things that break you are meant to stay broken. Some cracks are invitations. Some ruins are maps. And maybe the past never wanted to be held forever. Maybe it only wanted to be seen, truly seen, so it could finally rest. And now that you've looked in the eye, now that you've dared to ask what still binds you, perhaps it is time to offer your gratitude and then your goodbye. So take this moment, not to forget, but to release, to loosen your grip on the weight that no longer serves your flight. Let memory become mist. Let pain dissolve into perspective. Let who you were bow gently before who you are becoming. And if some fragment of the old story still lingers, let it as a whisper, not a chain. Because healing is not erasure. It's remembrance without submission. It's walking forward while the past watches, powerless from behind. And if these words stirred something in you, not a thought, but a tremor, then don't let it fade. Share this video like a lantern in the dark. Leave a comment not to explain, but to echo. Subscribe not for more content, but to walk with others who, like you, are done living inside old wounds. And if you felt seen, even for a breath, let someone else feel that too. Because maybe the only way out of the past is together